Welcome to the Called to Love podcast, a show dedicated to exploring how human relationships and intimacy with God are connected. Join us as we discuss hard-hitting topics that inspire and motivate you to go deeper into the intricacies of building meaningful relationships. Here now are your hosts, James Levesey and Brian Knadel.
Well, so here we are again. Hey, last time we were talking about an experience I had in church and how I used to come in and sit on the back row and
I remember.
Leave before, the prayer was over so nobody would see me and talk to me.
Well, you're not the only one that does that.
No, I find there's a lot of people that struggle in church.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about relationships in the church.
Well, what's fascinating is people will come into a church because they're trying to find God. And so it'll be on their conscience. Maybe they was raised in church or, whatever it was. They'll walk into a new church. And I find the feeling and the excitement of a new church is a lot of times a good experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's the long-term experience that seems to get people in a mood or a funk, or now they start having feelings about the sermon or the pastor, or maybe someone didn't treat them right that knew better. And so they start developing these attitudes towards people, not realizing that these people are in church too to become a better person, but they're still in a place. So how do we deal with that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the relationships in church and how they affect us and what's so difficult about them.
Well, they're no different than our relationships, both with family or close-knit people, and even our relationship with the Lord. Everything starts off fresh. When you get rescued from the Lord and redeemed, your excitement, you feel like a brand new person. That's how you feel. When you go to church, you feel the same way. When you're in relationships with people that are new, you feel the same way. But after a period of time, things begin to change. You begin to see things that you didn't see before, things that may bother you, things that are quirks to you, whatever it is that always ends up happening.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk about how do we overcome those things. What's a healthy perspective that we should have going into church, and what's a realistic role that the church should play in our life?
Well, when you get a bunch of people together and they come to church, if everyone's showing up with the same mindset, what I expect to happen to me, what can I expect, what's going to happen, what's going to be good for me. If you go up thinking all about yourself and not others, so my favorite thing to say is this: I don't show up on what the church can do for me. I show up in what I can bring to the church when I show up that morning or that evening. That's how I do it.
Yeah, that's a really healthy perspective. What's in it for everyone else, and I'm just going to be a person here to bring the light, right? That sounds logical.
And if you have expectations going in and they're not met, what ends up happening? You get frustrated, you get aggravated, you get offended, and then it changes your perspective of church. But church is supposed to be a family. It's made up of a body of believers, and everyone should go in with the attitude, this is my family. But oftentimes it doesn't feel like family. What do you do?
Yeah. I was watching a popular show one time, and it was this kid on there made a comment that he's like, man, I really wanted to get to church, and my mom wouldn't let me go because she had all these things she wanted me to do. And he said, man, I just wanted to go so I could find God. And it hit me when he said that. I thought, man, we're not going to church to find God. We're going to church because we're wanting to surround ourselves with a bunch of people that have the same beliefs so that we can find relationship with those people. Because we find God in a personal relationship with him. What if we had to go somewhere to find God when he's right there? Like Jesus said, when they asked, how do you pray? He said, well, when you go into your room, close the door, and pray to God, and He sees you in secret. He sees you in the secret place, and He'll reward you openly. He talks about it over and over and over again. This is about a personal relationship. We put too much expectation on what the church is supposed to do for us. We're supposed to go in there like an emergency room, like a triage. Hurt people are coming in, and we're supposed to take the stuff that's coming in and bandage them up and be of good cheer and encourage. Show them something that they might want.
There's almost like an insensitivity that we can often have. We show up, we're waiting for something to happen, we want the music to be amazing, we're wanting to receive, but we're not thinking about how we can give to the person we're sitting next to.
That's right. We got a clip coming up, and it's going to be a good example of what the people in the church got right. This is a good example of what we're supposed to do.
And what I also like about this clip is it identifies how often there are people going through some really tough times and you don't know until they're gone or till something happens and you hear about it. So yeah, let's go to the clip.
Relationships with others have greatly affected me. There were many years ago when I had a spouse leave, and I was completely devastated. Had it not been for the kindness of people who just took time to be with me, and some of them said nothing, they just stayed with me, I would have not done well during that season. Yes, I learned a lesson during that time of walking it out with God. He taught me how to become a receiver. I'd always been in the position to be a giver, and that was my comfortable spot. I didn't know how to receive until I was in a place where I had nothing to give. And He taught me how to be grateful and how just to say thank you and not feel like I had to explain away the situation or replace or replenish what had been given to me, that I could simply just receive. And so it was a valuable lesson.
All right, so here's the deal. When we are going to this place to fellowship with other Christians, we're wanting to find people that share the same belief. And a lot of times we go in thinking, okay, we're going to find people that are hopefully like us. And we're going to want to look and see examples of what it looks like to live like Christ. But oftentimes we find something a little bit different, and it can discourage us. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I do. And here's the thing. That's why there's such diversity in churches. Finding a place where you can connect and grow, where you can build community. That's a great place. People that are isolated need to be in community, because when troubles come, there's no one there that they can connect with or can talk to. So, but the biggest thing is when you get there, the goal is to say, Father, what role do you want me to play in this church? And what people have you brought me to see and meet that can be a part of my journey? And that's why it's important. You remember, we just talked about going from the church to even a smaller setting, like a home group or something like that, or a Sunday school class, and then even from there develop even more intimate and personal relationships with people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that may watch this has been a part of a small group. They've been called several things: home group, D group, cell groups. They've kind of evolved with their names and things. But ultimately what it's about is the church has recognized the idea that we have to be in a community, a relationship. The pastor can't serve everybody, especially in bigger churches.
Sure.
So they've accepted and identified the idea that, well, okay, we need to be in smaller groups so we can have friends and relationships and the things like that.
Yes.
The problem that we have found is the small group becomes a church. Not a church in a sense as the bigger church,
Right.
but the same issues and problems. So the church basically has seen, okay, y'all need to get into a smaller group to be friends and help each other and support each other. But then you get into a smaller venue that's not doing it either.
Well, it's a great, well, here's the deal. Anytime you move towards personal, intimate relationships, there's always the opportunity to be misunderstood, to have unmet expectations. And so what ends up happening, if you don't know how to resolve conflict, then what happens is ultimately you have a separation. People quit coming to church. You ask them, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I was offended. I don't go there anymore. I'm going somewhere else. And then they give you a whole laundry list. And usually it's a reflection of, well, what I had expectations, they weren't met. I opened myself up. Someone took advantage, whatever. And it really is important. Our perspective is all about, I'm wanting to grow and be like Jesus. That's what I want to do. And I have to be others focused and not so self-focused, or I'm going to be constantly viewing everything and how it makes me feel. It's really a chance to grow is what it is.
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting, I had a guy one time that I know really good, and he was talking to me about, he was leading a small group for a couple of years. And one day he got called into one of the associate pastor's office, and he got reprimanded because there was two members of his small group that had tattled on him because he wasn't running the group the way they thought he should. So they went around him and went and told. So he comes to me. He's real hurt about this, by the way. He felt like he got backstabbed. He felt like he was putting his life down for these people, giving up his evenings, making food for them and doing all these things that you do at a small group. And I asked him, I said, well, do you want to learn from this? And he said, yeah, I want to learn. I said, who do you have in that group that's a personal relationship? People that they know your business, you know their business, you meet outside of the group. And he dropped his head and he said, I don't have anybody. And I said, the reason why they went around you is because y'all didn't have a relationship.
Yes.
And y'all have been in this group for 2 years and you haven't made a relationship, and you're the leader, not one. So there goes the problem. So how do we get to a place to where we're intentional now? And that's really what it takes. You've really got to be intentional about building relationships. So just because you get into a small group, now that just means we've got to funnel down to one. We've got to find one, more than maybe one person here, maybe one person there. You don't have to break any speed records, but you've got to be intentional with it to build these relationships, or you're going to find yourself just as disconnected as you did at the church.
And we see that so often. I know most of the people that you and I meet with, some of them don't go to church anymore. They've resulted to social media or something on television. And so what our desire is for their hearts to heal and say, whatever happened, I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to start over. They very well could be the catalyst to go back in the same place they got hurt in. Let's go to this clip.
Yeah, relationships with others have impacted the way my relationship is with God, because it taught me during that season of being alone and being a single parent to 3 young sons, that I was not alone. There were many relationships, many friendships that left during that time, and it kind of cleared away the noise from that time. It was God and me walking it out, helping me raise my boys, and then slowly replacing and restoring friendships. And it wasn't like what I thought it'd look like, but it was good. I could see a before and after difference in the way I look at relationships and the way I look at God, and knowing that I think before I felt like I could do relationships in my own power, and now I really lean on the Holy Spirit to direct me in my relationships, and the gift of discernment. I put less energy into people, I guess, that are not ready to walk alongside me. I'm a lot more likely to allow those relationships to flow by the Holy Spirit, and not push and not force them, but allow them to flow naturally, and to pursue the ones that are ready to walk out and do life with me.
Here's the thing. We're not trying to promote people just have to get into a church. What we're trying to say is you've got to be in relationship. You can't live this life of Christianity on your own. God created us to not be alone. He created us in the reflection of Him, which He wanted a family, and He's wanting us to learn to love. He's wanting us to learn to be in a family. Church is just a great place where Christians gather. So we've got to figure out how to take advantage of what this culture has for us, and how can we get involved and find a family to get involved with without getting hurt.
Well, here's the thing. The Lord is with us, and the Holy Spirit wants to lead and guide us in every area of our lives, including where we do community. So we are to bring and represent our relationship with Him there, and know that that's a body, that's a family, and just like our personal families can be difficult at times, so can churches. But what we want to do is we want to say, hey, if you've been hurt, if you've had a bad experience at church and you don't go anymore for whatever reason, the goal is to say, Father, search my heart. I don't want anything in there, because if you are carrying anything that's hurt or wounds or anything, that's affecting your walk in relationship with the Lord. It can actually affect you. So your goal is to say, Father, I don't want to hold on to anything that doesn't look like you. I don't want to have any wounds. I don't want to have any hurts. I don't want to have any offenses. I want you to lead and guide me. It may be, He may want to send you to a place so that you can make an impact on one person just by being in relationship, by going, one small group or whatever that may be. So the goal is to represent your relationship with Him to others. That's where He's wanting us to love people in the church just as much as He wants us to love people outside the church.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to love people. We're supposed to be known by the love we have. We're supposed to be able to go out into this world and people think, man, what a very kind person that man was or that woman was. We should be stirring up curiosity on where did they get that from?
You know how they always, when we're out, they'll say, an act of kindness. Well, where do you go to church?
They do.
And we're like, it's not just about the church. I want you to know I'm representing not only a church, I'm representing my walk in relationship with the Lord.
I'm afraid to invite them sometimes because I'm afraid they're going to get hurt. So I got to kind of get to know them sometimes.
Well, awesome. We're done. Till next time, James.
See you then.
We hope this episode of the Called to Love podcast has enriched your life and offered valuable principles to apply on your personal journey. Please explore our website at www.calledto.love for more information and to share your feedback with us. Until our next episode, may you find peace and love. And always remember, you are called to love.